If you think your firm is safe because it has an AI policy, you need to watch this. Saturday, April 18th, a partner at Sullivan Cromwell, a firm where bankruptcy partners reportedly bill $2,500 an hour, sat down and wrote a letter begging a federal judge not to sanction his firm for filing a motion full of AI hallucinations. Let me give you the facts cleanly, because most of the coverage this week is glossing over them. On April 9th, 2026, Sullivan Cromwell filed an emergency motion in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York. The judge presiding is Chief Bankruptcy Judge Martin Glenn. I won't get into too many details about bankruptcy law, but just know the joint provisional liquidators are trying to trace billions in crypto for victim recovery. These are real victims and serious money. 10 days after this emergency motion was filed, Andrew Diedrich, co-head of Sullivan Cromwell's global restructuring practice, sent a letter to Judge Glenn. He described the errors in the motion as, quote, hallucinations, instances where AI tools fabricated case citations, misquoted authorities, or generated non-existent legal sources. Attached to that letter was a 3-page single-spaced document cataloging roughly 40 corrections. 40 for $2,500 an hour, spread across the motion, the verified petition, the joint administration motion, the scheduling motion, and at least 2 declarations. And the part that should chill every litigator watching this video: Sullivan Cromwell did not catch the errors. Opposing counsel did. Boyes, Schiller, Flexner, where Matthew Schwartz's chair, flagged the hallucinations to the court. The most resourced firm in the country, Sullivan Cromwell, had to be told by their adversary that the filings were fake. This is the part of the story almost no one is telling correctly. Sullivan Cromwell had 2 mandatory AI training modules, both with tracked completions. They had office manual language that instructed every lawyer at the firm to trust nothing and verify everything. The Diedrich letter explicitly admits that the firm's policies were not followed in connection with the preparation of the motion. Stop and think about that for a second. Every general counsel and innovation chair I talk to right now is rolling out the exact same playbook. More training, tighter policy memos, a required reading list, verification language in the firm manual, tracked completions for compliance. Sullivan Cromwell had all of it, and it produced 40 hallucinations in a single filing in front of a sitting federal judge. This story isn't about a careless associate. It's not about a partner who didn't read the brief. The story is that paper policies, even strictly implemented ones, do not solve the underlying problem. The underlying problem is not a knowledge gap. Lawyers already know they are supposed to verify citations. The problem is that verification is a labor-intensive activity, and you cannot replace labor with a memo. You cannot policy your way out of this. You can train an associate to recite the rules and still watch that same associate skim past a fabricated quote at midnight on a deadline. The rule does not do the work. A human being sitting at a desk, pulling each citation by hand, does the work. If the firm has not structured the workflow to make that happen, the policy is decorative. This next point requires actual practitioner experience to see, and I think it is the most important thing I am going to say in this video. When AI moves earlier in the workflow, the human enters later. When the human enters later, the editing instinct erodes. Think about how legal work used to happen. An associate drafted a motion from scratch. The draft was rough. There were typos, awkward sentences, places where the argument did not quite hold together. A partner read that draft as what it was, an unfinished piece of work, and the partner's job was to challenge it. Ask where each citation came from. Make the associate defend the argument. The review was adversarial by design. Now picture what happens when an AI drafts the motion. The output is fluent, the citations are formatted correctly, the sentences move smoothly from one to the next. There are no obvious typos. The brief looks like a finished product. There is a documented psychological effect in that moment. The reviewer reads polished output as something already vetted, something already correct. The instinct to challenge is replaced by the instinct to approve. That is the trap. The more polished the AI output looks, the more dangerous the review becomes. A human reading a rough draft asks where every citation came from. A human reading a clean draft assumes the citations are real. That is exactly how 40 hallucinations end up in a Chapter 15 emergency motion at Sullivan Cromwell. I have read enough briefs in my career to know the difference between a draft built by hand and a draft built by a machine. They feel different. The review instinct fires differently. If you have not retrained your eye for the second category, you are going to skim past the same fabricated citations that the Sullivan and Cromwell team did. And it will definitely not matter how many training modules you have completed. I'm not going to leave you with commentary. If you have any role in how AI gets used at your firm, here are 3 things you should walk into a partners meeting on Monday and put on the table. Move number 1, a hard rule. No associate at your firm submits AI-drafted work product to a partner, to a client, or to a court without doing a manual citation pull on every cited authority. Manual means opening the case in Westlaw or LexisNexis or Bloomberg, reading the actual opinion, and confirming the proposition. It does not mean asking another AI tool to verify. The verification step has to be human, and the verification step has to be physical. Move number 2, a structural separation between drafting and verification. The same person should not do both. If an associate uses AI to draft a brief, a different associate or a paralegal or an outsourced verification team has to pull the citations. The reason is exactly what I described in the last section. The drafter has already accepted the output as polished. The drafter is psychologically the wrong person to challenge it. Build a workflow where the verifier comes to the work fresh. Move number 3, a specific mandatory check on every quoted parenthetical. This is the one almost every firm is missing. The most dangerous hallucinations are not fake case names. Fake case names are easy to catch. The dangerous hallucinations are real cases with fabricated holdings. The case exists, the site exists, the quote does not. Or the quote is real, but the parenthetical attribution is wrong. Every parenthetical in an AI drafted brief gets pulled and read in the actual opinion. Not skimmed, read. If you implement those 3 things this week, you have done more to protect your firm than every training module rolled out in the last 12 months combined. Back to where I started. Sullivan and Cromwell had 2 mandatory training modules. They had office manual language, they had tracked completions, and 10 days ago, they filed a motion in front of Chief Judge Martin Glenn, so full of fabricated authority that the correction letter ran 3 pages single-spaced long. If your firm's response to this story is to roll out a 3rd training module, your firm has not understood the story. Damian Charlton's hallucination database, which is incredible, and I'm going to include as a link in the comments below because I feel like I bring it up every time I'm being interviewed, has now logged over 1,300 cases globally as of April 2026. The sanctions are climbing, the judges are paying attention, bar associations are paying attention, clients are starting to ask questions. You do not need a better policy. You need a better workflow. Drafting and verification have to be separated. Citation pulls have to be physical. The parenthetical check has to be standard practice on every brief that AI touches. I write more about this topic on my Substack. Link is in the description below. If you got something out of this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and send it to whoever at your firm is in charge of the AI rollout. See you in the next one.